morning everyone and welcome back to the vlog. I'm on the Cowal Peninsula today, not too far away from Dunoon on the west coast of Scotland, and I've come to this stunning gorge to get some epic photos. I've only just got into the glen and I've already come across my first image. It really doesn't get any better than that. What a stunning scene that I've come across. I'm finding it really difficult to photograph in these low light conditions, mainly because the exposure that I need to capture that beautiful light that is sat on the rocks behind, I need a really long exposure. I'm looking for an exposure around about a shutter speed of around about 10 seconds. But of course, that's no good for the water here. All I'm getting is a real blurry, mushy kind of texture to it, which I don't want. So what I'm having to do is take a couple of exposures, one for the dark shadow areas and the soft light that's behind, and then taking another image to freeze the water so that it keeps some of that detail. But anyway, let me show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So you can see we've got these really dark, foreboding rocks that come down left and right with this stunning ethereal backdrop of light, capturing that moss that is sat in the background there. And we've got the wee little bridge that comes across just on the back of my scene. But it really is a challenge with that light. You can see with the water coming down that to capture all of the detail in this image and to capture the detail in that shadow, I needed an exposure around 10 to 15 seconds. But then I lose all of that detail in the water coming down through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shot at around about 10 or 15 seconds. Then I'm going to up my ISO to around about 3,200 and then take an image just of the water and blend them together. Now, obviously, if you were taking our ISO up to 3,200, there's noise within that detail, but it doesn't matter because I'm only going to be using the water to blend the two. And I really don't want that soft, blown out water where we've got no detail. So anyway, what a fantastic start. I mean, as I say, I've only just got into the glen and already this is my first image. Some of those trees in the backdrop there are just incredible. The soft branches with that moss just coming off and capturing the light. It really just adds to the scene. And anyway, I'll stop waffling on and here's the first image. So the challenges that we have in photographing in a really dark area like this is we have to make some sort of compromise. And that compromise is one, we can shoot at a high ISO. I can shoot it around about sort of 2,000, 3,000. But of course we then start to get a lot of noise in the dark shadow areas of our images. And we want really nice, clean, sharp, crisp images that are going to look nice hanging on someone's wall. So the next stage is to really always take multiple exposures. One long exposure so that we can shoot at a low ISO, but of course then we need to allow for the water and the movement in the water. So what I'm doing is every shot I'm taking 2 exposures. I'm taking one on ISO around about 100 to capture all that lovely detail and to make sure that there's no noise in the dark areas of my images. And then I'm increasing the ISO to around about 2000, 3000, and just to capture the water and the movement in that water before it gets too blurred and too soft. And then what I'm going to do is when I get back, I'm going to put them on the computer and I'm going to merge those 2 exposures together so that I've got one for the water flow and one for the backdrop and the scenery. To an area like this, I'm always really careful that I don't miss out on those small intimate scenes. We've got this beautiful cascading waterfall, but right down at the bottom of it we've got these colourful rocks and the water's splashing off this dark mossy background, which makes for a lovely small intimate image. Just keeping those eyes open so we don't miss a shot. You can see that a couple of really essential important bits of gear for this photo shoot have been a pair of welly boots and a cloth just to keep wiping that lens because of the spray from the water coming down here. A little bit tricky because the actual flow of the water is really strong. So I've got myself in a really good position, making sure that my feet are really well embedded into the bottom of these falls here. But I'll show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera for this next shot. So I'm on my wide lens for this shot. And what I've done is I've positioned myself to capture this small rock just in my foreground interest here. Then with the falls flowing off into the distance, we've got the waterfall coming off the backdrop there, and then we've got that beautiful dappled light in the distance. It's not a complicated shot, but just tricky to get to. And again, talking about those low light conditions, I'm having to take 2 exposures. I'm taking one where my ISO is around about 100, just so that I get no noise and I get that beautiful, sharp, lovely image that is going to look nice as a print. But then I'm also adjusting my shutter speed to around about 1/6 of a second and then upping my ISO so that I can keep that shutter speed to capture that water. So that's giving me an ISO of around about 2000, which just for the water itself is perfect. So again, a couple of shots, and when I get back, I'll merge those together to give me a final image. But it really is a stunning scene. You can see that we've got those 2 trees that are coming over in the distance there, just across the falls. And then we've got this stunning greenery as a backdrop, and the light's just coming through those trees. There's not really much of autumn colour left, but just scattered around are a few oaks that have got that coppery colour to them, but unfortunately not where I'm photographing. Anyway, don't want to be in this position for too long, so I'll take the shot, and here it is. Sure, as you're watching this video, you're spotting scenes that I'm walking past. I know if I was watching, I'd be shouting at the screen saying, "You've missed the shot, you've missed the shot." But I'm just so surrounded by so many potential images that this is one of these places that you need to keep coming back to and revisiting, because, well, just looking around everywhere is just stunning. With that light, with the moss and the foliage and the water, I think all year round there's going to be images to be had. So I've come across another epic scene as I've come around the corner here. Unfortunately, Corin can't get into a position where you can actually see the shot and me. So let me show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So you can see it's quite an epic scene that we're looking at. We've got this, in the background there, we've got this tree branch that has come down at the back. We've got the bridge which crosses over the waterfall, and these cascading falls coming down with some nice foreground interest. And there's that branch as well which comes down the back of the falls, and some stunning green foliage left and right, which is really being accentuated because we've had so much rain. And yeah, well, so I'm going to take a shot, and again what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shot at around about ISO 64, which is going to give me about a 10-second exposure. Then I'm going to adjust my exposure to around about a 1/6 of a second on my shutter speed, and then increase the ISO until I get to a good exposure, which will probably be around about ISO 2000. And that's just to freeze that water, plus any of the foliage that's moving around because of that bit of breeze. And it definitely makes photographing this more complicated. There's going to be more work to do when I get back, but I think we're going to get some stunning shots through here. So anyway, here's the image. I'm not sure which number bridge this is, but there's been quite a few. So I've come across my next image and another epic waterfall coming down through here. What I like about this is the diagonal angle that it's coming out within my image and the way that the water's cascading and swooping around these rocks here. There's a fair amount of foam that's built up, so I'm trying not to include some of that, but I do like the texture of this rock. And I love the way that this water is just cascading around. So probably slightly longer exposure, just to capture some of that movement in the water, but not too long to blur out the water coming down there. So maybe close to a second possibly on this one, but I think I'll do half a second and a second, see which I prefer. I really like the way as well that fern comes out of the rock just to my right there, and we've really got some nice light coming down through. There's a few trees at the backdrop and there's light coming down behind those rocks as well. So that really makes for a really interesting image. We've got some strong contrast, some green foliage which is breaking up the dark rock, and that movement of the water is the image. Well, that's it. I've come to the end of the gorge walk, and what an incredible walk that's actually been. I'm probably going to go back down the same way that I came because there's so many photo opportunities. And with this sort of light, I'm always going to be able to take all through the day really, because there's no harsh light. There's a fair bit of rain, and it's definitely got busier on the trail with dog walkers and people coming through. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the vlog as much as I have being here. And if you have, please click the subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you don't miss an episode, and leave me a comment down below. I'm sure through that walk you spotted hundreds of photos that I missed. But anyway, let me know if you've been to anywhere similar that has just been photograph after photograph. I always love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.